for that last one to kick in. It's always that last one that gives me issues. All right, we should be good to go. Hello and welcome, Just a Family. I am your host, Melissa Krechler. This is Giving You Something to Talk About, or Just Alive TV. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about children's emotional health and children intuition, because children's intuition is a huge thing that not enough people talk about. Today's episode is sponsored by the Butterfly Lotus Company. They have a download for you in the description of a spirit routine for gifted children who are mediums and having issues with spirits. So that is what you can find, the link in the description. Our guest host today is none other than the female healer, Dawn Walker. Dawn, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Melissa. Hi, everyone. I am known internationally as the female healer, Dawn Walker, and I specialize in intuition building. I created a blueprint out of all of my hard knocks in life due to the lack of emotional intelligence and intuitive programming in our public school system and in our private school system here in the Western culture. I live in the United States. So I took all of that information that I learned in seeking to understand my intuition, emotions, and abilities, and created Intuition Builders Masterclass and Lifetime Mentorship. And I created the mentorship because I don't understand why would we have a masterclass with a lot of information if we don't have mentorship with the teacher walking alongside you week after week, month after month, year after year, as you fully develop into your intuitive gifts to answer questions and challenge you to grow into your highest vibrational intuitive self. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. And we want to talk today about our children and how important it is that we help them grow into their intuition and we grow into our intuition and understand intuition and emotions so that we can help be the leaders in forming a solid energetic foundation in our children where they can discern their energy and discern the energy of others to understand who they are and what that still small voice from inside them is that's leading them through navigating decisions, running from things that might hurt them, that instinct that tells them, no, don't go across that street, what that is, so that they understand how it can lead them and how to trust that intuitive spark inside them.
Absolutely. And you think about adults, right? We're most of the people who are going to watch this video and this episode are adults. And I know from my own experience, because I'm an intuitive, or not intuitive, I am a spiritual teacher and an identity coach. So those both go hand in hand with a lot of things that I teach. And as adults, I don't know how many adults I've come across in the last, 10 years who have struggled with their gifts, struggled with their intuition, with their identity, with their sense of self, with their own energies, being empaths, mediums, healers, psychics, all of these things. And what we don't understand or realize a lot of the times is that children are naturally gifted, right? We as adults, when we were children, we were naturally gifted. And we were naturally in tune with those gifts. We didn't understand them. We didn't know how to utilize them, but we were naturally in tune with them. And as we get older, we lose that we lose that ability to be in touch with that, because we're told it's coincidence. We're told that it's imagination, or that it's us just making things up as we go along, when a lot of our gifts are intuition and our imagination, and going through that's part of our energy, that's part of our signature. And children definitely struggle with that. Could you imagine, as adults, if we had been taught how to utilize those gifts as children, and
Right.
what would we be able to accomplish now if we had known that then?
That's right. That's exactly it. And you're hitting the nail on the head about the foundation. So it's not anyone's fault. And let's look back, let's do a review in history. And if you really look at history, as creatures, we evolve. As God and as consciousness, we evolve and we grow smarter. Even with diseases they found evolve and grow smarter. And all of the drugs that doctors come up with to combat a disease, after time, it no longer works. And they have to come up with a smarter, more powerful drug because the disease gets smarter and it grows in its strength and wisdom. All things grow in their strength and wisdom. So traditionally, if we look at our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, they all came from the Depression. Our countries, our civilizations came from a mindset that was here, okay? But now intuitively, we've grown back into the roots of strong intuition, and the only beings that didn't get diluted and have always moved in their intuition are the indigenous tribes, and the indigenous, even with the natives that used to rule the land, but then we started relying on outside sources, looking for people that were experts and specialists in different fields and believing in them to lead us instead of tuning in. We're all psychic in nature. That's our first gift. We are an indigenous being, and intuition is in all beings. If you look at birds that flock, they have that anomaly when they flock together, none of them hit one another. They move and listen to each other intuitively and telepathically, and they flow together. You see that with swells of fish. The fish can swell together, and if there's something that's attacking them, they all shoot off in different directions, yet they don't hit one another because they're tuned in to their intuition and completely focused. And for us, we were raised that, intuition and psychic abilities, telepathy, not to talk about it. You'll go and get thrown in the nut house. People it was a block for us. We were scared to utilize it. There were people that put it in religions not to utilize that. And part of that was strategic. They didn't want humans growing in their gifts and power. They wanted to keep those gifts a secret. So it's a well-known secret. And if you really look at the people that are most successful on the planet, those people were loners, and those people fully developed and were nurtured and developed their intuitive gift, their connection with the universe and with God. They were following God's lead. They marched to the beat of their own drum. They weren't trying to compare and be accepted into pockets of people. And that's where we've lost our way, but now we're figuring it out, and we're actually realizing, okay, wait a minute. This is our gift, and our children are so gifted with this, and so are we. So let's, us as parents and adults, acknowledge it and start tapping into it. And think about it, everybody that's listening, haven't you had that experience where your intuition told you something and you were too busy going on your own program to listen, and then whatever happened that your intuition told you was going to happen, and then you regretted it and thought, man, I knew better. I just
had that experience, right?
Right. I should have done it.
And I'm a spiritual teacher.
Sure.
I
still get so busy on my agenda that I miss it. And it's always talking to you on big things, big decisions, and small decisions. So we can all relate to that. Or for like ESP, we'll think about somebody that we haven't spoke to, and all of a sudden our phone will ring and it's them. We're all connected. We're telepathic. There's no such thing as hiding your thoughts and having secret thoughts that nobody can hear, because actually all of us are connected, and everything that we think vibrates into the next person. I can sit here and have a conversation with Melissa. I've been telling her since we got on how much I love her, just how wonderful she is in light. And we can feel that energy exchange. It's there with us. We're communicating 24/7 with one another. And it's really about tuning into our children. And you said the key word, we're all empaths. What's that mean? Empaths, we feel one another, just like the anomaly of birds that flock together. They feel each other's intentions and they honor one another so that they never hit one another. Unconditional love they give. You got it.
I love that. There are things that we believe differently, and I love highlighting those. So I'm going to highlight those really quickly. So you and I are both healers, right? Guaranteed you and I are both healers. So one of the things that I do in my spiritual teaching practice is I like to start with people who are new, right? And new and don't know what to think, what to believe, where to go. So I'm all about, teaching people about the gifts and abilities. So I have different thought processes on the gifts and abilities. We all are intuitive, 100%. I do not disagree with that one. We are all intuitive. That is our sixth sense, our, that thought process, our gut feelings, the instincts, that's all intuition, right? And for whether you're spiritual or not spiritual, we all have that intuition. Whatever you call it, we all have that. Now, I don't agree that everybody is an empath, because there are people who don't pick up those signals, or who are blocked from those signals, and that causes a lot of strife and stuff like that. So I definitely don't believe we're all gifted. I think majority of us are, and a lot of the time we are just closed off from those gifts, whether that be circumstance. And talking about being closed off from our gifts and what's happened over society in the last 1,000 years or more, you think about the Egyptian culture, you think about ancient civilizations. They weren't, it wasn't the religious leaders that were at the top of the totem pole. It was, the pharaohs and people in high profile positions, right? Like kings and queens, they would have psychics. They would have magicians and witches and wizards in their inner circle, and they would protect them because they valued their input, right? You think about Christmas, not Christmas, but Yule. You think about spring, Ostara. You think about all the witches' traditions. Those all began with paganism, right? There were spiritual practices in place, and they were worshipped, they were acknowledged, they were, revered and supported. And everybody went to their local healer. Everybody went to their local psychic to get that information and to feel connected. And they built communities around it. And then all of a sudden, and I'm not against religion, so don't think that I'm saying this, but religion came along and twisted it. Not all religions, but some religions came along and twisted it. Instead of being able to celebrate your gifts, you were then persecuted, right? The Salem witch trials. You have all of these things that said, TV shows, movies that all portray psychics, intuitives, mediums, healers, all as negative.
Yeah.
And then it became this fear.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're trying to grow out of now.
Right. And it's truly the leaders' perspectives of the writings and the religions that got skewed. It's not actually the writings, the scriptures, the doctrines, the scrolls that are in there. It's the perception of it that has been preached out and given to others, and the others absorb that perception, and it's been expounded upon. Because if you actually pick apart the perception and of the scriptures and the scrolls, whether you're reading and following Ekankar, or you're following the Holy Bible, or you're following the Bhagavad Gita, or really digging into what all of these pillars taught, all of them taught unconditional love. And actually, even in the writings, they talk about being healers and seeing. Some of the scriptures are taken out of context, and that's the issue that we see at hand. And even witches were the healers. They were the nurses and the doctors. The reason that there's a negative connotation around witches and they're saying it was witchcraft is because somebody of authority and of power that had a lot of money, that was ruling a community, and was in a government position, had a sick child, and other children started making fun and getting sick, and they needed to blame somebody, and it actually ended up being their piping in their water that they was making everybody sick, and they didn't know where to place blame. And as humans, we want to place blame somewhere. And then they started burning the witches and saying it was the witches' intentions, that they didn't have pure intention and pure heart. And that's where it started getting skewed. But truly, intuition is God. It's all knowing, it's all source, it's our direct connection. Intuition is highly knit, and that too can get confusing with communication. You've got pillars and our colleagues all over the world that we work with and coincide with Melissa, that have written books and said, well, intuition only comes through, the sacral chakra or this and that. And everyone's confused with that. Intuition is, they've shown the heart, and it's its own brain and all of the capillaries. It looks like an upside down brain. And the heart is where we engage unconditional love. And they've actually shown it move energy out. They've hooked healers up and watched the energy project out of their body. Well, that's where we communicate unconditional love, which is pure source. Intuition is pure source. So it really starts there, but we feel it through our whole body. And truthfully, you were saying it without saying it, that we're all empathic, but some people just have blocks. They've never been taught how to listen to their own energy and do exercises to interpret their energy and others' energy. But that's why I build intuition builders, because not only do we to decipher our own energy and identify our own energy and cultivate and build up unconditional love of self first, not selfish love. This is joy and appreciation and gratitude for the being that you are and the gifts that you have that you get to share with the world. Stopping the comparison and the noise and really tuning into who am I? Because as children, we are always looking outside ourselves, and most of us are so lonely and alone. It's weird being a child in this avatar and body. Some of us have bodies that are big, and we feel, not comfortable in them. We feel sloppy, or we're skinny, and kids make fun of each other. And so we start getting real self-conscious and start getting in worry and fear instead of staying free in joy and discovering, looking at ourselves and saying, man, I look really funny and awkward in this avatar. And it's so uncomfortable for us. We're so sensitive that we get so lost in so much of the inside noise. And it's really about tuning the children in and the humans into their own personal energy first, and establishing a firm foundation of that. And that's where they start. Then you can start playing and doing exercises with others and their energy, reading their energy and realizing, oh, wow, I already knew that about you. Your energy was speaking to me the whole time. And then they realize I am empathic. I can hear. Or they slow themselves down from the me, and start becoming aware and mindful of others, so that we can really start walking in a peace walk as a collective.
Yep. So as parents, one of the things that I would suggest is giving your children, one, the freedom to express who they are, who they feel they are, who they believe that they are, in a healthy, loving way, right? We're so quick to say that doesn't go together, or that doesn't look good on you, or we don't need to share those opinions, right? It's like the Grammys, the Oscars, the Met Gala. Oh, the best dressed and the worst. Like, who cares, right? Like, who cares? They all felt good in what they were wearing. What does your opinion matter, right? But teaching children that, and society's horrible for that. You've got TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of these apps that are showing perfect bodies, perfect makeup, perfect outline, perfect background, like all of it. And that's not realistic, right? It's not realistic. And teaching your kids that it's okay to have a messy hair day. It's okay to, fluctuate in your weight. It's okay to have mixed match clothing. You know, two of my children refuse to wear the same socks on different
I
feet.
love that. How
Right?
free. How free.
Exactly. As kids, you know, even for us as adults, and the biggest thing to remember as an adult trying to teach a child how to be their own individual self is remember all the work you're going through to reconnect to that. Like all the work that you're doing to reconnect to who you truly are.
That's right.
Save them the trouble.
Right.
Right? Teach them that it's okay to be different. It's okay to have gifts. It's okay to be gifted. It's okay to, you know, wear whatever you want as long as it's, you know, appropriate. Obviously, we don't need to be flaunting everything, right? But comfort, you know, comfort over fashion. You know, if you want to be fashionable. If you think that flip-flops and, you know, a ball gown are fashionable, then wear it. Like, who cares?
Yeah, that's so huge that you're saying that about the freedom and directing them, because you know that's how children learn to lie, is when you stop them from being free and you say no and they get in trouble for just naturally doing something. And parents are so reactive. And so again, you're just hitting it spot on about how to cultivate a free environment for the children to discover themselves. And what we need to do is understand how to correctly parent them and guide them, because we actually have invisible centers known as chakras growing in our body. These are our spiritual communication centers, and these are what connect to all beings. It's not the physical body that connects to all beings, it's the etheric body. It's not often seen by the human eye, but it's very fuzzy, and you can feel it. You can actually zone in your energy now and just slow your energy now and feel the vibration of your energy. That's all of your major and minor chakras spinning. And what happens is when you're toned in, you can just start feeling that vibe. And I want all of you that are participating to just slow yourself down for a minute. Just follow me along and just slow into here and now. Take a deep breath in, if you will, and release. Release all of your thoughts, your cares, your concerns, your goings on. Take another deep breath in. Let it all go out to the universe, all your cares. And release. Let's keep going. This is really quick. Allow yourself to release all of your thoughts and become one right now with Melissa and myself. Just tune in. I want you to feel your energy body. Take another deep breath in. Release. And now I want you to say inside your heart, I love you. And tell your body, I love you and I'm so grateful for you serving me. Thank you for serving me and housing my energy. Just feel that vibration. Beautiful. See how it got so quiet? You can just feel that vibe. That's our children's vibe, but what happens is it grows as they age. It's their lower root chakra, and for them to feel very secure, adults that feel insecure in this earth were moved around and there was really a chaotic environment. They were told that they not to do this, to do this. No, that's not right. Like you said, overload with judgment. And their parents didn't just gently direct them away from something. They would just react and say, no, stop. And the kids get scared. They don't have a chance to be free to express themselves en route. And they really need that freedom and expression up until the age of 12 and 15 so that they can cultivate emotional intelligence. And so when you say, give them freedom to express, and if they get a little too risky, say, well, let's try this option. Just put more options in front of them and gently remove the other options or add options and teach them why. And there's so many conscious collective homeschooling pods opening up to awakened parents now that are teaching their children exactly what you're speaking about, so that they learn how to communicate and not lie, how to tell their truth, and then it become a discussion.
Not only that, so as an identity coach, I have what's called the 7 mindset pillars. And it's, as we're children and as we grow, we create beliefs in these 7 pillars, right? And as we get older, we create our entire reality based on what's in those pillars, right? What we believe about ourselves, what we believe about our relationships, what our life should look like, our finances, all of this, right? As children, that's when we create these beliefs. So I've known children who haven't been controlled their entire life, don't feel confident, don't feel in control of themselves, of their choices, nothing. With my children, I can be a dictator at times, absolutely, right? It's I'm a parent, I do make mistakes. But for the most part, I ask my children, do you want to do that? Is that something that you want to do? I remember my own experience growing up. My mom would always tell me, you can't be friends with that person. That person's not good for you. Don't be friends with them. And I would have my choices made for me. And of course, me being me, I would be like, no, I want to be their friend. And so I would be their friend in secret.
Sure.
If our lives are made up of experiences, we're here to experience. We can't become ascended masters. We can't become guardians if we don't experience in the physical world, right? All of those negative experiences are teaching moments for us to know how to handle them, how to go through them, how to process them, all of that. So we need to let our kids experience, right? If they're going to be friends and you're like, I don't really like that kid, because you're tapping into your intuition, that's not the greatest kid for you. Maybe that kid has a lesson for your child that they need to learn, right? They're supposed to learn how to cope with things, how to cope with, friendships going wrong, or their friends, for lack of a better word, stabbing them in the back. Like there's so many experiences our kids need to have. And when we don't give them the options to make those choices, they don't connect to themselves. Right. And that's teaching them how to make choices, how to make informed decisions, how to make decisions that are not based on their emotional health, but their logical health. Right. Is that good for me? What are the consequences? What are the possible options if I do this? Is this something I really want? Feel into your intuition. Is it something that I really want? Do I have to have it? And is it my goal right now? Right. Teach them goal setting, and all of that comes down to 1, their emotional health, 2, their intuition, and 3, their identity of who they are, their sense of self. Yeah. Without that, they won't function.
No. And also, we have to teach them about the universal laws. I go in very much in depth in that in the mentorship portion of Intuition Builders, because we have to understand how energy operates so that they can make informed decisions, especially now that we have so much impressing and building our subconscious and programming our subconscious while we're asleep, while we're walking past fear-based programming, we're visiting people and they've got something negative in the background, or if the child is more prone to fear-based reality, we can't be inside the child's mind. And some of our children are very sensitive, very timid, and scared and shy. And so for them, they fear the entire world around them. Well, with that going on at a very young age, what happens is they manifest in reality what they fear. They have to understand. And so experiences will come in because they're focusing their energy and thoughts on what they fear and worry about. And before we know it, we see our children experiencing things that are traumatic and drawing that within and into themselves. So they really need to understand quickly at high level how energy moves and operates and how their thoughts move and operate, so they can start choosing their thoughts And if they're identifying, if they have a parent that's in depression, children are empty sponges and are thirsty, and they absorb everything around them. So if you are in depression or you're angry a lot, guess what? Your child is filled with your consciousness elemental, with your depression and your anger. And most of you will see your child throwing fits and being depressed. They've taken your energy and your emotions that you're emitting on. So it's really important that we keep ourselves centered and whole so that our children are experiencing unconditional love emotions in the home, so that they have a firm foundation to grow in and a safety net to grow in. It's more than paying the bills and providing food and shelter. We have to be whole as parents and really understand ourselves as what we are as energetic beings, so that we can be that firm foundation for our children and allow them to freely express and cultivate who they are. And so that we can intuitively recognize if they're coming home from being at school or around friends and they're filled with the friends' emotions, and they're mirroring that behavior from others because they unknowingly absorb and mirror others' behaviors. And they can't identify and move out of that until they get older, into a conscious stage of evolution where you can have heavier conversations about that. And each child's at a different level developing. So it's really, each one is different.
One of the things that I wanted to elaborate on there too is, as parents, we need to know who we are, but we're still here to experience, right? We're going to still have those up and down moments. And when we're having those up and down moments where we're being emotional, where we're upset, because life happens, right? There are going to be days where you just need a break. There are going to be days where you're sad, where you're crying, where you're experiencing grief. I know a lot of parents who hide that from their children. And if I'm having a hard day, my children know I'm having a hard day because I vocalize it. I say, you know what? I'm having a hard day. I feel like crying today. I'll be okay. Because they need to know how to process those emotions. And if we as parents aren't showing them that it's okay to be unhappy, it's okay to feel down, it's okay to feel, sad or angry. My daughters, they get mad at me because of course I say no, and they come up and they're mad at me. You can see it on their face. And I turn around and I said, you can be as mad at me as you want right now. Absolutely. You have every right to feel what you're feeling, and you can be mad at me and I will accept that. I said, the difference is I will not accept if you take that anger out on me. There is a difference between feeling what you're feeling and taking those emotions out on other people. And that's a boundary we as parents should be teaching our children. If I'm in a bad mood and I'm angry, if something's triggered my emotional reaction, I can call my daughter in here right now. She's in the other room. And you ask any one of my children, and I say, what happens when mom's mad? And they say, leave her alone. She needs to relax and calm down, and then she'll talk to us. And that is exactly it. I am in control of my emotions. I'm in control of my reactions, my responses, my ability to have that conversation. When I'm angry, I'm volatile and I'm vindictive. When I am that angry and I'm reacting out of that anger, my goal isn't that I love you. My goal is that I'm going to hurt you as badly as I feel. That's my intention. So I avoid that. I say, okay, I'm at that point. If I talk to you right now, I'm going to say or do something that's going to hurt you. And I don't want that because I love you. I am going to walk away, take a time out, and I will be back to talk to you when I'm calm. And I've now taught them to do that, right? I've taught them that it's okay to feel whatever they're feeling, but they need to control it.
That's beautiful. And anger is huge. Anger either creates a revolution of peace, or anger completely creates the opposite and creates chaos. We can see that already in the world, how anger builds, the fire of anger. But anger is a tool, and that emotion is a tool. and to use it appropriately is to recognize that, hey, I'm getting angry, and now what am I going to do with it? Where did that anger come from? What was the action that sparked it, or the event that I witnessed that sparked it? And is it something that I can change within myself, my people, my society, to shift that and everybody grow at a conscious level? Or is it a hurt person hurting me that's filled with anger that really needs a hug, and I'm about to spew it out and give it back to them because it's painful and it's fiery when I experienced it with them? Our first reaction is to just give it right back. But when you grow, like your growth, you said, wait, I'm going to stop. I'm going to take time so I can alchemize that, digest it, and come back. That's your growth.
Yeah. And that is. And as parents, we need to understand that our children's behaviors are their behaviors. It's their behaviors. If we are triggered by what they're doing, what they're learning, what they're saying, how they're acting, it's because it's our expectation.
Right.
Right? It is not
Ooh,
our
what's that word again?
Pardon
What's
me?
that word again? Expectation.
Yeah.
Yep. The root of
mm-hmm.
the root
expectations.
of all.
Now, there are healthy expectations. Absolutely. But holding those expectations against another person to make yourself feel better or feel worse or whatever it is that's created by that, that's destructive.
Right.
If I want something done, right? If I say, okay, every day I want this done by this time. If they're not done by that time, that's my expectation. Yes, do they need to learn routine? Absolutely. But I don't need to fly off the handle and get raging angry because they're not following through with my expectation. I need to have a discussion with them and say, hey, you know what? We do need to learn routine. If I tell you that I'm going to do something by a certain time, I need to follow through with that. And that's one of those golden rules, right? Your word, keep your word, right? It's like treating other people the way you want to be treated, right? If you don't want to be disrespected, don't disrespect them.
Yeah, it shows you're reliable. They can count on you. It shows accountability. It shows team building together, everybody with healthy roles. You have expectations to fill a job role that you get hired for. You have expectations to build a family dynamic, to keep open communication. Everybody discusses that and agrees to their role. If they have an issue with that, once they start getting into it, and then another discussion comes so that they keep those healthy expectations alive and active. But then we have judgment expectations. These are unsaid expectations that you're speaking of that we attach to everybody. And especially we get really lazy and used to creating expectations to all people that we deal with, especially our family. And that's what causes demise in relationships because of unsaid expectations. Unsaid expectations are the root of all demise.
Yeah. 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 And our reaction to those unmet expectations as well, right? I can get into that for hours. Expectations is one of those things that I love to talk about because it's in everything. Relationships, business, you know, your children, your friends, everything, right? It's expectations is a killer. I have one of the biggest.
I have a trick to that. So anytime I meet a judgment or I meet an expectation within myself, if somebody starts doing something and I notice that it starts hurting me or I get triggered, right away I identify, what am I doing to create, where's that emotion coming from? And the quick trigger is unconditional love and stop judgment. Stopping judgment is stopping expectation. So I have this quick trigger where I start moving. If anything out of unconditional love's coming up out of me when I'm sitting with somebody and they're being their authentic self, I just say, stop, unconditional love. And I move energy from my heart, like to a place where my son's kissing me, how it feels so good to receive that energy. I'll just focus that energy, even if somebody's hostile, and see the picture of my son coming up and giving me unconditional love. And I'll engage that and just start pushing that out. It's a real quick tool. Same thing that I use when I'm trying to read somebody and get out of my ego and judgment and emotions and connect intuitively to find out what they're really saying and what they're not saying and what their real intentions are. And if they're leaving something out, if they're lying, if they're telling the truth, if I want to make a business decision, if I want to connect with somebody, if I want to run from them, I will just unconditional love, just stop, unconditional love. And then that gets me to listen. So all of you can use that. Just listen.
So another thing I wanted to mention that you just brought up for me is, as parents, I'm going to say as parents, okay? But as women, when we have birthed a child, and I'm not discrediting any parents at all, but there is a different level of intuitive connection when you've grown that human being, right? And you've grown that energy. There is a very high level of intuitive connection to your child. And you do get it when you build that unconditional love connection. So adoptive children, fathers, mothers who, didn't birth the child, you still have those connections. So I'm not saying you don't, but there is a connection that you create, an intuitive connection with your child. Until they meet their partner, you are the closest intuitive contact to your child. You have the ability at any point in time to connect intuitively to your child and be like, that's what they're thinking. That's what they're feeling. They're not actually slapping me in the face by disobeying me. They're maybe just not understanding what it is that I'm asking them, right? And you can connect to what your children need in a different way than anybody else can. Your children's teachers can come back and say they're really disruptive, they're doing this, they're doing that. Sit your child down, have a conversation, and be, what's going on, right? And just, instead of getting angry right away, just try to understand, where they're at. And I caution every parent, not caution, but question every parent, challenge you in a way, is that it's easier to preach to your children than it is to teach. And that's one of my favorite sayings in my own home, is it's time to teach, not preach. When you preach, you are demanding expectations. You are demanding that it be a certain way, in a certain style. When you teach, you're teaching the lesson, you're teaching the morality, you're teaching the, what it is that you want, but there's room for the discussion, the compromise, the ability to include their unique self, because they are their own unique individual. You can include their unique self into that conversation and not just say it's my way or the highway.
And with you saying that, that's so important. Your point is so rich and so important, because also it opens up an opportunity for us to truly engage with them at their level, and they feel like soaring and they feel so loved, and they feel your engagement, and that deepens your bond to where they really trust you and respect you and lean on you, and they keep themselves open to you as their best friend, their confidant, their leader, their guardian, their guide, and they will keep leaning into you the more that you can be exactly like Melissa's saying, open, receptive, inquisitive, not demanding, but saying, well, I'll tell you why I'd go down this path, because I actually went down your path and this is what it led me to. But you're free to choose. But I just want to tell you that this is what happened to me, and this is what I've watched happen to everyone else. But if you want to experience that, that's your free will and choice. But I know eventually I went this way and the results were this, that, and the other. That opens up a discussion, a bond, a friendship, It helps them acclimate their communication skills and grow into a dynamic, forceful, and empowered, centered human being. It's so
And
important.
if you'd like to see an example of that, go on YouTube or Facebook under the show. So whether you're watching on YouTube or watching on Facebook, or you'd like to follow us on one of the two, please go check out either YouTube or Facebook. Those are the only two locations where you can find our very first episode that I did with my 20-year-old son. And I didn't start my progress as a parent until my son was in his early teens. And we had gotten to that point where we didn't have a relationship. We didn't have a discussion. It was filled with strife and expectations and anger. And we didn't speak from the time he was 14 to 17 and a half. And my son is now 19 going on 20. And we have one of the strongest mother-son relationships. We just got matching tattoos last year.
Oh, I love it. A phoenix rising.
Wow. Yep. He is the inspiration for A Phoenix Identity, which is my identity coaching company. Wow. He is the reason I got into spirituality. And he tells me everything. And him and I have a bond like no other. And I'm now facilitating a similar bond with his sisters. So know that it's okay if you've screwed up, if you've been, the dictator, or you've made mistakes, or your teen or your child is rebelling, it is okay. It can get better. Look within yourself and start asking yourself what your child needs from you as a parent, what your child needs from you to feel loved, accepted, open, honest, that healing relationship. There's nothing this child hides from me. He's open and honest to the point where I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. And two, challenging everyone to figure out what their child needs. Some of you are still lost. Some of you are still struggling to figure out what you need. Some of you have been given such harsh reality that you were raised in a war zone, alcoholism, drugs, addiction, abuse, anger, and the list goes on and on, to where you've never fully been able to heal and develop those gifts for yourself, and it wasn't given to you. So some of you need to take a step back and really heal yourself and get into a centering and start hearing your intuition and coming in. And that's definitely where you want to start developing your intuitive self and understanding your energy, so that you can become one and you can bring forgiveness and rebalance to yourself first, and then start pouring out to your children and being a light and a life raft for them as well. It goes both ways. So if you recognize that and you really need that, please reach out to somebody that you feel compelled to reach out to. Reach out to one of us. Let us know that you need help or you've got questions, and just engage a conversation. And if you don't feel connected to us, we've got tons of colleagues around the world.
Absolutely.
That we can connect you to, until you find somebody that will help you figure yourself out and your communication with your child out, and help your children acclimate as well.
Yep. And that's the thing for people like Dawn and I. We don't, we aren't the type. I have a guide on how to choose a coach, mentor, healer, psychic, intuitive, medium. I have that. And the number one thing is, if it doesn't fit for you, say no. Even if, even doing the show, right? And you think about it, this is a talk show. I still say no to people to come onto the talk show. People say no to me to come onto the talk show. And I do that with love and with gratitude, because I know that I am not the right fit for everyone. The same thing goes from somebody who is helping you change your life and reconnect to yourself. It might not be me. It might not be Dawn. It might not be Tom, Dick, or Harry that's walking down the street. You need to know who works for you, and your intuition will help guide you. If somebody comes to me, and again, I have multiple businesses now. If somebody comes to me, I say, you know what, if I can help you through this one, or this one, I totally will. But if I don't feel like that I'm the right fit for you, I will honestly tell you, I don't think I'm the right fit for you, but I might know somebody who is. And I'll connect you with that person. And if that person isn't, then they'll connect you with somebody else. I won't connect you with somebody who's going to say, oh, I can help anything that you need help with.
Right.
Because that's not how we work. We have specific things that we work with.
That's right. Yeah. And you'll know when you find the right coach, you'll really feel the bond. And as you start developing, you'll know it. And the coach, we pick our clients as well. So that's why we always have consultations. We'll know if we can work with their energy and their blocks intuitively. And it goes back and forth. But the true coaches and light workers will keep sending you to different people until you find your home zone within people. And that's so important and imperative for you to create a firm foundation of unconditional love and a really strong support system for yourself, your family, to start creating that structure and strength within yourself and the kiddos. We want it on all levels.
And it needs to be that way. My first client I should not have picked that client, but I was so excited to get my first client that I said yes. I learned my lesson with that client. Every client
Right. It's Murphy's Law. We're living it real time in front of everybody out there. Sometimes it fits, sometimes it doesn't. And some of you are like, I don't even know how to follow my intuition and how to trust myself. I've made so many wrong decisions, and I looked outside of myself to fill myself. I looked at people, places, things, drugs, foods, whatever. And you've got so much imbalance. That's where you've got to really just find somebody that feels like home and feels safe, and you feel like you can tell them anything and it's not going to go anywhere. That's how you know that, hey, I'm here. And two, they'll work with you on all levels, financially or whatever you got going on. They'll work with you so that you can really identify and find a home within yourself and get structured and strengthened. That's how you know when you found the right person.
Yeah. The other thing is, and I'd love to end this video similar to this, is everything that we're trying to create for our children, everything that we've talked about, the emotional, the mental, the physical, the spiritual health in our children, that starts with us. That starts with taking care of yourself first, putting your mask on first, as they would say in an airplane. Always put your mask on first. And I'm not saying that you can't be a great parent. I'm not saying that you can't be an unconditional loving parent, but think about everything that you've gone through and everything you fought to be who you are today, and are still fighting to be somebody that you love, that you're confident in, that you love your skin and you love your expression and your energy. If you can save your children that struggle, even just by a few words. Now, I'm not saying do it for them, because we definitely can't. They do need to learn it on their own as well. But opening that space where whenever they need guidance, they come to you. Whenever, just building that relationship with your children is key. But again, it all starts with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Firm foundations, ourselves first. We got to feed ourselves first to keep the strength and feed others. That's another old tradition that women, especially, we would always serve. We're here to love and love others. And what happened is we stopped loving ourselves and we put everybody in front of us, and we stopped centering ourselves and being full and self-care and taking mommy time and taking us time and making sure that we're overfull and overflowing with pure, real, unconditional love and appreciation of ourselves. And now, finally, we're waking up and realizing, wait a minute, I can't run around on caffeine and Cheerios that dropped on the floor and be a good, fulfilling parent. I'm giving out, You literally give out a morphic resonancy. One of the colleagues I work with, Rupert Sheldrake, is a biologist, multi-author biologist that's very well known worldwide, and he showcases how we give out morphic resonancy, and it goes through everybody, and how we're telepathic. So if you're low vibrational and you're sucking on a Diet Coke or a coffee and eating a couple Cheerios and that's all you got, and you think that you're filling your family with pure, rich, unconditional love and light, you're not. Fill yourself first. Get centered, get holistic, get healthy, get in tune, and then pour out to all of them. Exactly how you said it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I love this episode. I think this has been an absolutely amazing episode and so needed, so needed. Is there anything you'd like to add before we go?
Well, thank you for having me. What a great podcast. All of you can check me out. Just look up thefemalehealer.com. Again, you can just web search thefemalehealer.com. That'll lead you to my website, all of my links, programs, all of my social media pages. I'd love to connect with you. You can reach out to me and message me on Facebook or wherever you're at. Just let me know, hey, I need direction. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Just reach out and let me know that you're there and let me help you in some way. Melissa, thanks for having this and offering this platform for all of us to come together. What a rich subject.
Absolutely. You're very welcome. And thank you for joining me. Well, just a family, today's episode has been sponsored by, the Butterfly Lotus Company. They're offering you a spirit routine for child mediums who are dealing with spirits, and you want to create a routine to make them feel safe and confident in dealing with those spirits. That is what's being offered. You can find the link in the description. You can connect with either myself or Dawn through the links in the description of this episode. If you would like to like, follow, or share on any of our social media platforms, you can find the show at justalivetv.com. You can find us on multiple social media platforms, again, by Googling Just Alive TV or giving you something to talk about. If you would like to be a guest on the show, a contributor, a sponsor, or if you would like to see a topic featured on the show, please absolutely connect with us. Again, justalivetv.com. Also, join our mailing list so that you get to know what's upcoming, what you get to look forward to, and when we go live. So you'll never miss an episode that you're really interested in. All right. Well, thank you again, Dawn. I really appreciated your time and your energy on this wonderful episode. For the rest of my Just a family, lots of love, and I will see you on the next episode.